Hello, everybody. Welcome to We Are on Solutions as well as Aquarius Rising Africa today. So welcome. Hello, beautiful Catherine. How are you? Good to see you again.
I'm great. I've just had to remove Mitzi Cat off my desk because she was collapsing the whole computer by walking across everything. So I'm great. I love having my cat assistants out here with me.
Exactly, I know. They are amazing. Mine was sitting here the other day falling asleep. I wrapped her up and I actually posted something on Facebook saying my secretary had a late night. Although I got to tell you, I'm probably her secretary, right? Anyone who knows anything about cats, well, we know that they are rule supreme, don't they?
Absolutely. And that's the way it should be. We worship the very ground they walk on. Yeah.
Totally. Not even a question around that. And I'm wondering where she is because she's so cute. Talking about cats, I actually posted a little video clip that I got from somewhere on Facebook. It's hilarious. This cat walks around calling its mother, like, Nicole, Nicole. You know how cats can sometimes talk.
Yeah.
Nicole. I mean, it's hilarious. And my one cat certainly does that. She's like more human than probably most humans. Well, hello, everybody. Jessica, you always in the chat, Jessica. Ursula, good morning. Caleb, good to see you here as well. So, yeah, it's wonderful to have everyone here. So how's your week been, Catherine? I was on your show last week talking about all sorts of amazing things as well. So good to have you back on mine again.
I've had some really amazing discussions this week, some which have gone up on YouTube, some which haven't yet, some which will be going up on Rumble. So generally speaking, really, really good. But I'm also thinking, obviously with the type of work I do one-on-one with clients with animals and humans, so many people are dealing with so many health issues that are not quick fixes because they're very deeply rooted and things. And it just really makes me feel like, wow, we really need to reset things and be conscious where we put our energy, because it's so sad to see so many people and so many animals suffering so much. So generally really good, but also sort of really giving some thought about, okay, what next for people so that they can really start to see some improvements with themselves, with animals. Because when you're physically really not great, it's so hard for you to make good decisions and stay upbeat. You know, it's all very well talking about positive mindset and things like this, but actually if you're really suffering on a physical level, it's really hard for people.
Well, everyone knows, I mean, if you're in pain, I mean, I just thank God I'm one of those that does not and has not experienced much pain or physical pain in my life. And I truly mean that. But there have been the odd time where I've had a like sore lower back when I've clicked my back out after being too vociferous or ferocious in some of my yoga practice or something. And I can tell you it ain't no joke. It drains you of your energy completely. It makes you makes me a miserable person to be around. I'm grumpy, I'm snappy, I'm not very pleasant. So I think physical health is a blessing, because when you're in good physical health, then anything is possible. And I really think that it's so important that we can actually really look at our physical health, and which actually brings me to what we were talking about earlier as well, the zappity doo dah day, right? The jabster thing. There's so much of that at the moment, because I don't know if you guys, if you're a South African in the chat, you will know Bruce Fordyce. Bruce Fordyce is a South African, and he's probably about 10 years older than me. South African athlete, long distance athlete. And he's won 9 Comrades marathons here in South Africa. Now, the Comrades is a marathon they run once a year between Pietermaritzburg and Durban. And it's quite an up and down. And it's a very, very well known. It's a very, internationally, lots of people come to the Comrades. And he won it 8 consecutive years, plus the 9th year. I think it was a year apart or something.
Wow.
He's won, all sorts of marathons in the UK, set many world records all over. I mean, what an athlete. I mean, I can tell you, if there's anyone I love watching, it is Bruce Fordyce. And he has now come out and he's put, and I've actually again posted it on my Facebook page. The man, I mean, okay, he's 10 years older than me, but someone who's in that health has always looked particularly young for his age, I must say. It was always a surprise to me that he was old as what he was. Has had 2 of the Pfizers and has had suffering now from severe jab injury, and has come out publicly speaking about that. And, you know, there's a part of me that wants to go, you moron, shake you to the core and say, why were you not listening? Because I always said, you know, at this time, I couldn't believe how many educated fools there were walking around this planet. And I know that sounds judgmental. It probably is. But really, it's just been so frustrating to actually see how many brilliant people have succumb to this thing. And it just brings it. I know there's a whole lot of stuff happening in New Zealand now.
Someone I did a show on that this morning, and I did a show on that this morning. I don't know why I've got an echo. And it's going to be on my Rumble channel. It's going through all of that. That will be up on my Rumble channel later on today, early evening. So take a look at that because it's really, really worth it. And we went through that in great detail. Yeah.
Right. Okay, we'll do that. But also, you know, I've interviewed Dr. Zandre Buerta a number of times on this channel, and she's known as South Africa's blood doctor. She was one of the forerunners where once people were going for this thing, actually seeing what was going on, and she actually gives a lot of I won't say anecdote, but she puts together a lot of stuff that gets rid of this thing in your body. In fact, I think we must actually post some of her videos again on our channel as well, because she's actually amazing. He's actually been working with Zandre, Dr. Zandre. I just call her Dr. Zandre. In fact, my brother also went for the jab and had all sorts of weird things happening. And thank God I got him in to see her because she lives in Johannesburg. Thank God I got him in to see her. And since he's been to her, all these funny things that he was suffering from have, thank God, majority disappeared. So it's very sad, but I think we're in for another dose of this horrific thing. And someone was saying to me that this person, this New Zealand, I don't know if you were saying it in your video, Catherine, but this New Zealander disclosing they want to lock them up for 7 years or something.
Yeah, he's been released at the moment, but I'm not sure in terms of whether it's pending trial or whatever. But the beautiful thing is once this comes out, yes, it's a shock to people, but also there's so much, as you can say, there's so many brilliant people that have got fantastic solutions to get for the people that are still alive, because there's a lot that aren't. I mean, when you go through the stats on that, it's absolutely horrific. But for those that are, it's not all doom and gloom at all. There's so many brilliant solutions, and our bodies, when you give them the right tools, are so able to repair and regenerate. But obviously it's hard for people when they're going through that at the moment, and it's hard to get the information out to people because, you know, most members of the population don't even realize that things like Rumble exist, you know, let alone so it's how do you get the information out.
I also have a Rumble channel, and it's very, very, it's much quieter, obviously. I mean, people know I'm hectically shadow banned here and been struck a few times with lots of our stuff being struck, but we will continue on regardless. And especially we were struck a few times because of Zandre Buerta's stuff. And that's also been on the Rumble, but we've got short clips and stuff that we're going to put up again, because I think it's so important that people become aware. And just, you know, for our health, really, without your health, you have nothing. If you are not in good health, no amount of money or aeroplanes sitting in your runway are going to change that. You're going to be uncomfortable and miserable, and a pill and a doctor can only help you to a certain amount of time, which is why I know you also do a lot of the natural stuff. But I want to tell you, we promote on this channel Spooky 2, the Rife machines, the home Rife machine. Oh, Jan, you're such a sweetheart. The home Rife machines, and they really, it's, in my opinion, frequency medicines is definitely one of the ways to go for the future. It's not the only way. Different things different strokes for different folks, but there are certainly things that we can use to clear up our blood, the viruses, the bacteria, the fungi that shouldn't be in our bodies. There are ways in which to do that. So when you have an alkaline body, everything changes, because so much pain causes inflammation. Tablets cause acidity, which is inflammation, and a combination of all these things, as well as the mental stress that goes along with it, is very debilitating. So it is my wish for everyone that we take care of our health, and especially for the new year, because I don't know why, something tells me we're going to have to be very vigilant about this coming year. You know, we all look forward to the new year, absolutely, but there's a lot that we need to be looking out for, yeah?
And taking proactive action, you know, the easiest time to sort a problem out is before it's got really hard, really bad. And this is the message I'd like to give to everyone before we really delve into our subject today, is whether it's for you or your animals, take those early warning signs really seriously, because it's so much easier to bring your body back into balance, whether it's you or your animals, when you hit the things early. Once it's got really ingrained and really taken hold, you can do it, but it's going to take a lot more commitment and knowledge. So all of us, these warning signs are there all the time for us, and if we ignore them, it will be at our peril. And I agree, we want to be going into the next year mentally strong, physically strong, emotionally strong, and spiritually strong.
So true. And you know, it's been amazing, and I know you've had your channel for a while as well. It's been just over 3 years now that Aquarius Rising has been going. And honestly, we've built up such an amazing community of people, and it's such a supportive community. And I know a lot of the people on your channel, we share a lot of viewers as well. And it's really cool to actually have such a supportive community of people. And, you know, we're here for each other, and we just need to reach out and connect and trust, really. And, you know, your body is designed to heal itself. Honestly, your body is a resonance chamber. Nothing so bad cannot be fixed in your body. I have no doubt about that. I've been a healer for many years. I've seen miracles happen. And it really starts with a mental decision that you choose health. And then, of course, there got to be things that you have to put into place. I mean, if you're drinking 6 liters of Coca-Cola a day, well, it might be a good idea to start drinking 2 liters of water a day, right? Mm-hmm. And just start changing things that you know are going to work for you. Take the right steps to make things happen. Get out into nature. Take a walk around the block. You know, if you're lucky enough, like I am, to go to have a beach or beautiful nature around you, and Catherine, I know you're the same. Take a walk with your animals in the morning. You know, do that once or twice a day, and that in itself will start making massive changes to you, because your whole being then starts changing. You know, just little things like that. There are little things that we can do that is going to make a big difference. And it's
absolutely,
you are the point of attraction for everything that occurs in your life. Your energy, your attitude, your well-being, everything starts here. And when we take that into account and we start faith, you know, your body is designed to heal itself. I promise you it is. Promise you it is. I promise you it is. I've seen it so often. And when you have that faith in your body and your creator, you work with your creator, whatever you choose to call your creator, God, source, divine, whatever, Christ, whatever it is you resonate with. When you have that connection with your creator and you choose health, your creator will work with you. But unless you are choosing that, and unless you are taking proactive steps to make that happen in your life as well, you're going to remain running off to these idiots who are going to jab you and tell you that that's what you need in order to remain healthy.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I really believe that is the way forward for us. And I think that's what we need to look for. But yay, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to say on that topic? Because otherwise we continue on.
Let's continue into the book, because I'm sure it will all link in anyway.
Yeah. Well, for those of you who weren't here with us last week, or 2 weeks ago rather, one of my favorite books is a book by Kahlil Gibran, who lived many moons ago and wrote a book called The Prophet. And it is just these tiny short chapters where people would go to him and, let's say, speak about freedom. And I think last week we did money, right? And not money, we did marriage, right?
Yeah.
So just wisdom in terms of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read the short chapters. And this, for me, by the way, is on crime and punishment. And I wanted to read this, someone asked me about crime and punishment, because I also shared that when my fiance was killed in a hijacking many, many moons ago, when the guy that was caught went into prison, the police called me and they offered that I go and see him. And I did. And of course, the first thing that people were scared of, or the cops were scared of, that I was going to go there with a gun in my bag and want to take revenge. And it was absolutely the last thing on my mind, because I then understood the power of forgiveness, So it is very difficult to go to the police station and sit across the table from this guy who cold-heartedly, literally took out the person that I loved, right? And, not just that, but the way they did it. And also was like the knock-on effect that has for so many people, right? So it's very, and it's so, especially in this country, it's so easy to become a statistic, because how many people have been taken out in a hit, right? But they would then pay the African people to do it and call it a hijacking, right? And although it wasn't an African person doing this, it was made to look like it was a hijacking. And it did turn out, as I later discovered, it was a hit for different nefarious purposes. This guy was not African. He was a white guy. And he was pretty like a good-looking little guy. I've now discovered what the word dude means. I'm going to stop saying that word as much as what I can. He was a good-looking little guy. But it was like, it's still quite a knock to see him. And before I went there, I actually photocopied this section in Kahlil Gibran's book on crime and punishment. So I'm just going to read it, and then we can just comment on it. And if anyone in the chat would like to comment on it as well, you'd be most welcome. Then one of the judges of the city stood forth and said, "Speak to us on crime and punishment." And he answered, saying, "It is when your spirit goes wandering upon the wind, that you, alone and unguarded, commit a wrong unto others, and therefore unto yourself. And for that wrong committed, you must knock and wait a while unheeded at the gate of the blessed. Like the ocean is your God self, it remains forever undefiled. And like the ether, it lifts up the wing. Even like the sun is your God self. It knows not the ways of the mole, nor seeks it the holes of the serpent. But your God self dwells not alone in your being. Much in you is still man, and much in you is not yet man, but a shapeless pygmy that walks asleep in the mist, searching for its own awakening. And of the man in you would I now speak, for it is he and not your God self, nor the pygmy in the mist that knows crime and the punishment of crime. Oftentimes I've heard you speak of one who commits a wrong as though he were not one of you, but a stranger unto you and an intruder upon your world. But I say that even as the holy and the righteous cannot rise beyond the highest, which is in each one of you, so the wicked and the weak cannot fall lower than the lowest, which is in you also. And as a single leaf turns not yellow, but with the silent knowledge of the whole tree, so the wrongdoer cannot do wrong without the hidden will of you all. Like a procession, you walk together towards your God self. You are the way and the wayfarers. And when one of you falls down, he falls for those behind him, a caution against the stumbling stone. And he falls for those ahead of him who, though faster and surer of foot, yet remove not the stumbling stone. And this also, though the word lie heavy upon your hearts, the murdered is not unaccountable for his own murder, and the robbed is not blameless for being robbed. The righteous is not innocent of the deeds of the wicked, and the white-handed is not clean in the doings of the felon. Yea, the guilty is oftentimes the victim of the injured, and still more often the condemned is the burden bearer for the guiltless and the unblamed. You cannot separate the just from the unjust and the good from the wicked, for they stand together before the face of sun, even as the black thread and the white are woven together. And when the black thread breaks, the weaver shall look into the whole cloth, and he shall examine the loom also. If any of you would bring to judgment the unfaithful wife, let him also weigh the heart of her husband in scales and measure his soul with measurements. And let him who would lash the offender look unto the spirit of the offended. And if any of you would punish in the name of righteousness and lay the axe unto the evil tree, let him see it to let him see to its roots. And verify he would find the roots of the good and bad, the fruitful and the fruitless, all entwined together in the silent heart of the earth. And you judges who would be just, what judgment pronounce you upon him, who though honest in the flesh, yet is the thief in spirit? What penalty lay you upon him, who slays in the flesh, yet is himself slain in the spirit? And how prosecute you him, who in action is a deceiver and an oppressor, yet who also is aggrieved and outraged? And how shall you punish those whose remorse is always greater than their misdeeds? Is it not remorse, the justice which is administered by the very law which you would fain serve? Yet you cannot lay remorse upon the innocent, nor lift it from the heart of the guilty. Unbidden shall it call in the night, that men may wake and gaze upon themselves. And you who should understand justice, how shall you, unless you look upon all deeds in the fullness of light? Only then shall you know that the erect and the fallen are but one man standing in twilight between the night of his pygmy self and the day of his God self, and that the cornerstone of the temple is not higher than the lowest stone of its foundation. I mean, how profound is that, right? What's your comment on that, Kath?
I've got so many questions and so many thoughts on that. I mean, it's really profound. And at the same time, it's like so much taking these lessons into practical examples and what it actually means. Because with most of these things, you know, there is no simple solution to it. Everything is such a complex web that, you know, it's very, very hard to do it. When you're looking at something, say, like murder, it's so hard to understand, okay, what do we want to do about this? Because there's so many different shades of grey in there. Okay, murder is murder, it's absolute. But equally, you've got every circumstance can have so many unique parts to it. And, you know, some people repent for their sins and it might not be something that they're likely to repeat, but other people are a danger and you've got no way of stopping them repeating. So therefore, what do you do in that situation? Because I don't think many people would be happy if someone knew someone was a real danger to society and they weren't taken off the street somehow. These things are so complex and so deep. And even, you know, there's obvious things like the carjacking where your fiance was physically murdered, But then anyone who's going to look into this whistleblowing of the, I'll be careful what I say here because of the platform one, of the whistleblower in New Zealand, who's gone through the real data, you know, there's people there that have, they've put it down to centers, jab centers, poke, let's call it poke centers, and they've ranked them. And some of them have got 25% of the people that they personally poked are dead. So where does that fit into it? And where does the blame?
Right.
It's so complex. And I suppose for me, it ties into the bigger picture of how much effort do we put into understanding what should we do about these situations, or how much do we actually put into the real solution? You know, how can we change people's mindsets? How can we help them through this? There's so much anger and emotion to get out from people in situations like that, but at some stage you've got to move forward and say, well, what do I want to happen? What new reality am I creating? So that's my initial thoughts.
Well, I fully agree with you, and I also want to make it very clear, when I don't say people should get away with things and murderers should be running around the streets. My point is everyone needs to take responsibility. You know, for me, it's really a simple task, if you will, of owning your shit. In other words, it's as simple as that for me. So not for 1 second did I think, or do I think, that a murderer should be running amok. Yes, the murderer should be, if he's certainly guilty of the crime or she's guilty of the crime, absolutely should be possibly incarcerated, because we can't have that going on in our streets. But how do we deal with that person is my opinion. Do we actually take them and beat them up and whatever, right, and make them feel lower than whatever they already probably do? Because in my opinion, if someone is going to do that, there's inevitably some type of reason behind it. Not that you have to make that the excuse, but you make it the understanding. And I say that every one of us that are here, and for all of us that have encountered these things, for me, I could have, in this situation that I was in, I could have done one of two things. Rest assured, the cops gave me the opportunity. At the time, it was still apartheid South Africa. Actually, it wasn't. It was already after apartheid South Africa, but not long after. It happened in 1996. But for me, when I was working with the cops, they pretty much gave me where his woman and her daughter, 3-year-old daughter, lived. They gave that to me.
Wow, how awful.
So basically telling me, if I want to get someone to wreak revenge, I can do that. I chose not to, for reasons that to me are very obvious, right? You don't hurt someone in that way. But I shudder to think how many other people might have taken that road. I chose to grow through the situation. I have an astrologer sister who at the time worked with me, and she said to me, you can either sink or swim here. She says, this can be your greatest spiritual expansion, growth, or you become a victim. And you can become a victim, and you can become angry, resentful, and kind of wreak havoc in your life and those around you. And I've always maintained, because of that situation, that was the catalyst for doing the work I do today. That was the catalyst for doing the work I do today. It made me see that there are many people out there who didn't have the opportunities that I did. I mean, and I went into this guy when I sat across the table from him, you know, and I photocopied that thing and I gave it to him. And I said to him, I know that you're probably not going to understand everything that is written here now. I said, but maybe one day you will. And he looked at it and he said, thank you, I will keep it. Whether he ever did or whether he ever didn't, I don't know. That was up to him. But I think what for me this whole story is, it's like we are all so intricately bound together that it's easy to blame the other, right? It's easy to cast judgment on another. But there is so much within your own self that you have not accounted for. It does not have to be the same type of crime, but we all have our own imbalances in our lives that cause us to do different things. I'm reactive. I maintain that a lot, and in my reactive state, I can have a mouth like a razor, right? Which is hurtful to someone else. I might not go and pull the trigger and kill someone's child, right? But my mouth and my reactions can sometimes not be a very nice one. So that for me is what it is. So again, don't cast a stone. What's the word? What's that? Sorry, I forget now. I mean, unless you take the log out of your eye before whatever, the splint in the log and that sort of thing. Sorry, I forgot.
Yeah, I know what you mean though. It's really, really hard. I mean, there's so many scientific experiments that have been done since the Second World War in particular to show how many supposedly good, normal people, whatever a good, normal person is, will obey the most awful orders to inflict pain on other humans, let alone what we do in animals and turn a blind eye every day of the year. I mean, any single person that's eating factory farmed animals and animals filmed, in a slaughterhouse, it's so easy to justify and fight for our limitations. And it is such a hard situation. And to me, this ties in so well with so many conversations that you, myself, Bryce have been having over the last few weeks and over the last few years. On Thursday, Bryce and I spoke about spiritual manipulation. And I think this ties in really closely to this because it's so easy to spend so much attention on things justifying, fighting for your limitations, when we actually sit there, and unfortunately there's something about human nature that often needs a catastrophe to happen in our lives for us to make these quantum shifts. Then, people have to get cancer, or they have to lose a loved one, or something, or their house, something catastrophic taken away from them. And I think I'm seeing this still as such a dominant form of human behavior, despite all the discussions that we've been having over the last few years, despite all the revelations. How many of us are really changing at an individual level and really practicing the true spiritual teachings, a bit like he said about the last, I can't remember exactly the word, but the same level of the cornerstone to the highest stone of the foundation. Yeah. How many of us are actually really doing the inner work to stop us reacting in the same way? If we don't break our patterns, we can't ever expect anyone else to change.
Exactly. That was exactly what I was going to talk about. It's discernment, and it's faith and discernment. It's faith in whatever your higher being is that you connect with, God, Jesus, Christ, the divine, or whatever it is, right? Whatever you're aligned with. For me, no one can manipulate me in these ways. They can't manipulate me in these ways because I have a very strong relationship with my Creator. And I practice a lot of discernment when it comes to these things. But so many people have not, because we've been dumbed down and duped, right? And this whole jab thing that we were speaking about earlier on has been such a significant teller of that, right? It's been such a revealer of that because so many people have not had the discernment and the faith and therefore have given their power away, right? No one has come to your door, well, not yet anyway, demanding that you have this, otherwise your child is going to get shot, for example. I mean, look, if that happened to me, I'd probably say, okay, cool, then do it, because I would have the faith in my body to know that I would not have that nonsense poison me. But if I had to do that to save my child, I would, but it would be with that intention. So my point is, how many people have willingly, not necessarily consciously understanding, but have willingly taken themselves to stand in these queues hour after hour after hour because they were so scared they're going to die, right? And that's just one example. How many people willingly eat factory farm meat every day? And how many times do I say on this channel, it's a blood sacrifice and it's a soul sacrifice. And if you are doing that, you are partaking in that. There is no room for ignorance anymore. So whilst you are partaking in that, you have to know you are engaged in that on some level or the other. It's like the networks of your energy are entangling with that. So and that's a low vibrating frequency. Remember, our bodies are made up of sound, frequency, and vibration. So when you are willingly and knowingly engaging in these things, at some point or the other, you're going to encounter that. And then it's up to you to decide that you want to change this, change your diet, change the way you think about things, change this. I mean, how many of us go to the doctors and the doctor gives us the wrong medication and then we're all pissed off because now it's a bad doctor? I'm going, no, you did not take responsibility for your health. You did not sit with yourself, speak to your body, understand what your body truly needed. And it's got nothing to do with witchcraft, right? You sit with your body. If you pray, you talk to the cells in your body, because every cell in your body, one cell contains enough information to write 1,000 books of 600 pages each. That's how intelligent your body is. And you have around 30 trillion. So if you're sitting in meditation and prayer, whatever it is, with your body, and you know full well there is another way, then these people don't have power over you. You're not going to be vibrating on those lower rungs. I'm not saying you're not ever going to encounter something negative in your life, but when you do, you'll know how to deal with it, because you've learned faith, you've learned discernment, you've learned to trust yourself. That's my opinion. And I know that it's crazy, and it's difficult because a lot of people will hide behind their books and their Bibles and all sorts of things and say, yes, it says this and this and this and this there. But that's still intellectual. If you're telling me, read that and that and that because that says that, and it tells me that you have not understood in your heart what that means, that you still need to talk about these things verbally and use other people's words to defend yourself. That's what I'm saying. It's got to become part of your being. It's got to become part of your living essence. Then when we're in that place, we can then be more discerning, and we will then not encounter these things. And then that takes us to the place of non-judgment, because then when we understand that we've all been there and everyone is there, right? Then you don't have to beat someone down because they made a mistake and blame them, while you yourself have got all sorts of dodgy things happening behind the scenes in your house or in your being, right? So the actual crime itself doesn't matter. I mean, it's energy. It's all energy. The actual crime itself doesn't matter. It's about the truth of who you are. And for me, it's when we're in truth, then we can move out of these situations. That for me was the biggest thing I got from that. And that is why that situation, that's why I say when Hannes died, he died for me. He died for me so that I could learn that. And I've learned it. Maybe I haven't got it 100% right. I'm still reactive, but I've learned it, right?
Yeah, I love that question. I think it's by Jessica. How do you know if you've truly forgiven someone? I feel like I have. It's a really, really good question, Jessica. And, sometimes that can come and go as well, because you'll go through waves of it. You'll go through periods, in my experience, where you think you are. But for me, how do I know if I truly have? is that it doesn't provoke a strong emotional reaction in me. And that I can be very objective and non-judgmental about that person. And personally, I think it's really, really hard because, you know, I hate using words like that because it doesn't have to be. Some people find it incredibly easy to do. You know, again, I think it's probably just a choice, but I keep going back. For me, it's a bit about the old Indian proverb about which wolf do you feed. So, you know, it's where do you put your attention? If you're going to put your attention, keep putting it on that person. It's going to bring up key things. If you take your attention off and you feed other areas of your life, at the end of the day, when we're truly happy in ourselves, we don't display the low emotions. We're not jealous. We're not vindictive. We're not judgmental. We don't blame others. We can forgive. And if we're struggling, that's in any of those areas, is always showing that there's unresolved things in ourselves that we need to work on. And quite honestly, my personal opinion is, you know, we'll be working on all this till the day that we pass out of this physical being into whatever comes. I don't think it's ever a quick job done in my world.
I agree. I think it's, you know, it's an ongoing process, and it's exactly, and I agree with you. How do you know if you've forgiven someone? You feel it in your heart. It's like when you can look, you know the moment you've you've unknotted that knot, so to say. It's like in that moment, things make sense. It's like that light bulb moment goes on, and you go, oh my goodness, that's what that was about for me. You know, I had a very interesting dream. The next day after I came back from the prison and I went with a friend of mine, I had a super, super interesting dream. And that was actually from something I'd been with another, and I don't want to go into it because then I've got to tell that tale and I don't really want to. But it was like an experience I'd experienced with someone else. And I, in that moment, knew that that was why I needed to experience this. And I also understood that was their karma. Hannes, and this guy's name was Eric. Hannes and Eric, that was their karma together. That was what they needed to experience together. And I know that Hannes left and he went back into the light. And I've had several confirmations of that in the years since then. But it's really actually been, you know, when you have something that traumatic and so in your face happen, it's a very, very good indicator whether you can actually move beyond that and you use that for the betterment of so many other things. For me, that's what it was. I was able to use it for the betterment because my whole objective or my thought process then was, if today was my last day on earth, how would I choose to live it? Because that was so close to home for me, you know, and how would I choose to be? Would I choose to be angry with someone? Would I choose to leave this earth plane with all sorts of unfinished business? And I didn't. So it also put me on the path of resolving issues with people. And it doesn't mean now you've all got to become love and light, and forgive everything. It's not toxic. It's really not toxic new age love and light. You know, as a human, you have every right, and it's very necessary to put down boundaries for yourself. And when I say put down boundaries, I don't mean walls. There's a big difference between boundaries and walls, right? A boundary is understanding what you are triggered by. And if other people trigger you, then you need to look at what you triggered by, and that's what your inner reflection has to be about. But if you work through your stuff, and then there are still those in your space or that you friends or whatever, business colleagues, whatever it might be, that haven't worked through their stuff, then that is a sign for you to then move forward as well, right? Yeah. And it doesn't have to be an ugly thing. And it doesn't have to be something where you're fighting with the other person and combating with them. It really is just a time of saying, you know what? I'm moving on from here. I'm comfortable with what I've achieved. And also, you know it when you stop attracting certain experiences into your life. That's what it is for me.
Some lovely comments in the chat with people sharing their experiences. Thank you so much for doing that. Thanks, Eva. Thanks, everyone.
I love what you say. The moment my body unnuts from within. Absolutely. It's that feeling of boof. that release, that it's like that knot just lets go, and it just becomes a feeling of bliss. And you go, thank you, God. And you can actually smile at that person and say, thank you for showing me what I've needed to see through this experience. Because then we realize each and every person is actually a teacher for you. You can realize then that your abusive father was a teacher for you. You can realize your abusive mother was a teacher for you. And what have you learned through that experience? And that's what we are on earth to do, right? We're here to learn.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Very, very, I love that. That was a very interesting one for me. Okay,
I think there's
let's
so
see
much
what
to
else.
think about. I think, I think with all of these things, this is why books like this are so special. Did you see the link I sent you about him? Someone had written about him on Facebook, about his family background and everything. I think I sent it to you a little while ago, a few days ago.
Which were you talking? Kahlil.
Yeah, about what a difficult upbringing he
Right.
had, and his mother and sister dying and everything. Yeah, it was really interesting because I didn't know much about his personal story. But this is the thing; these are just lessons, and it is such a cliche about how we decide to deal with them. And I think it's fascinating because so often it's the people that have been through the most trauma that get the greatest lessons and the greatest knowing, and really are able to live in that peace. Some of the happiest people I know, and by happy I mean really content and at peace with themselves and their lives, are the ones that have actually been through the most. And it's really wonderful because then they're living every next day with a true sense of gratitude and appreciation.
Absolutely. 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 It's amazing, when we.
Yeah.
I don't know when I said Caleb. I know. Well, lately we speak about him a lot because he really is a great example of someone who's, as I always say, owned his shit. But anyway. So here's another one then on freedom. Let's talk about freedom, right? And the orator said, "Speak to us of freedom." And he answered, "At the city gate and by your fireside, I have seen you prostrate yourself and worship your own freedom, even as slaves humble themselves before a tyrant and praise him though he slays them. In the grove of the temple and in the shadow of the citadel, I have seen the freest among you wear their freedom as a yoke and a handcuff. And my heart bled within me, for you can only be free when even the desire of seeking freedom becomes a harness to you, and when you cease to speak of freedom as a goal and a fulfillment. You shall be free indeed when your days are not without a care, nor your nights without a want and a grief, but rather when those things girdle your life and you rise above them naked and unbound. And how shall you rise above your days and nights unless you break the chain which you, at the dawn of your understanding, have fastened around your noon hour? In truth, that which you call freedom is the strongest of these chains, though it links glitter in the sun and dazzle in your eyes. And what is it but fragments of your own self you would discard that you may become free? If it is an unjust law you would abolish, that law was written with your own hand upon your own forehead. You cannot erase it by burning your law books, nor by washing the foreheads of your judges, though you pour the sea upon them. And if it is a despot you would dethrone, see first that this throne erected within you is destroyed. For how can a tyrant rule the free and the proud, but for a tyranny in their own freedom and a shame in their own pride? And if it is a care you would cast off, that care has been chosen by you rather than imposed upon you. And if it is a fear you would dispel, the seat of that fear is in your heart and not in the hand of the feared. Verily all things move within your blessing in constant half embrace. The desired and the dreaded, the repugnant and the cherished, the pursued and that which you would escape. These things move within you as lights and shadows in pairs that cling. And when the shadow fades and is no more, the light that lingers becomes a shadow to another light. And thus your freedom, when it loses its fetters, becomes itself the fetter of a greater freedom. How amazing is that? I think it's kind of like saying the same thing in a different way, right? What's your take on that?
When you were reading that, all I could really think of is, what's that film that we all watched back in 2020 where, oh my God, the really famous one with the guy, you know, the mask that everyone's wearing.
Oh, yes, Jim Carrey.
No. The film where, you know, the woman's in her own cell and she doesn't realise that she can get out any time. What is it called? Anonymous, you know, wears the mask, about to do with the film. It will come to me in a minute, but it's like that. It's so incredible, the prison that we put ourselves in, the amount of times we told we had to do this, the amount of times that the boundaries, the jail sentence is just completely made up in our own head, in our own illusion. And I see it all the time, and so many of us, myself included. Viva Vendetta. Thank you so much, Jessica. Viva Vendetta. And I think for me, this links in a bit to Sally's question there. How can you revive the ember of the spirit of someone who has lost everything, homeless? I've given shelter and food and trying to understand. And for me, that links into this freedom thing. The first question I would say is, have you asked them what they want, Sally?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which you might have, but yeah. So the freedom thing is, for me, crucial to absolutely everything. Because we all have these stories, all of us. I mean, you know, I work for myself, you work for myself, and it's amazing the stress I put myself under. And then I'm sitting there thinking, this is completely self-imposed. You know, I can laugh at myself, but it doesn't necessarily mean I don't fall into those patterns at times. And I think, you know, Sally, for if someone's got who's lost everything and homeless, I would say fantastic that you're concerned, but I would also sort of make sure that you're sort of understanding what they want, because we can have very different wishes of the way we want to live our lives to other people. We've all got different priorities in the way, and I'm not saying this person has necessarily chosen that, but in some respect there will be. So, you know, the prison, the V for Vendetta, for me, it really sums it up so beautifully, because this is the reality that most of us live our day-to-day lives by and make our decisions on. It's quite incredible. I mean, love him or hate him, David Icke has been saying to this for ages. We all turn around and say, no, it goes back to the cues of everyone growing up to get poked and everything. You know, no one dragged you along there creaking or screaming. Maybe if you're a child, you know, a young child, you might have got dragged along.
Young child, absolutely.
But any of us that are adults, we went there under our own free will. Well, we didn't, but some people did. But there's things I've done. I'm not pretending that's an example I haven't done. Trust me, I've done things in the past that, you know, I've had other things that I think, looking back, I wouldn't have chosen to put inside my body. So yeah, this freedom thing is absolutely key to absolutely everything we do. How much are we a slave to ourselves? How much are we putting ourselves in different jails? And how much do we try and project that on others as well?
Absolutely. You know, I always say freedom is not about running around and wreaking havoc in the streets, right? And just taking and pillaging whatever it might be. For a lot of people, that is freedom, when you see how much rioting and stuff goes on in different places. But it's a place you reach within. Again, you know, I always say we are all here by choice. All of us are here in this world, on this earth right now, because God has given us the free will and choice to be here. And the greatest gift we have is free will and choice. And we must never, ever forget that. It is my choice to be in this body, my spirit, my soul, to be in this body of Chantel, living the life that Chantel is living, with the challenges that Chantel has. Chantel is free to choose differently at any point in time, But something in Chantal maybe is not yet understood that she can do that. So she will constantly make decisions and choices for herself that maybe are not of the highest good, but that's the best she knows right now. And when we start understanding this about ourselves, we take judgment away from ourselves, right? We then stop judging ourselves, because at the end of the day, you are your own worst enemy. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts about yourself are the worst thing ever. I always say, why do when people talk about empaths and narcissists, and a narcissist this and a narcissist that, I'm going, well, why have you attracted a narcissist into your life? Because we can never deny that happens. We attract these things, right? And that's a story for a different day. But firstly, let's look at your own thoughts. If I had to, sometimes the things I think about myself, and I still get caught up in that trap, right? I do, I'm not going to lie, about having a negative or a bad thought process around myself or something. If someone had to say the words to me that I think about myself sometimes, I would be heartbroken. But yet it's okay to think it. In the Eastern teachings, the Eastern philosophies in yoga, there's one of the principles in yoga that is known as ahimsa. Ahimsa is non-violence. It means non-violence. And it starts with non-violence in your own mind. So the would've, the could've, the should've, why didn't I have? The self-persecution that we have, that is all sowing seeds of violence in our own mind. So when we start having these thoughts towards ourselves, we create that violence towards ourselves. And that puts us in chains. So when we start reversing that process and going, okay, well, even 10 minutes ago, I wasn't the person that I am now. Maybe I had a conversation with someone. Maybe I read something. Maybe something in this talk. Maybe someone in the chat had something to say that has unknotted a knot in me, right? That has given me a greater sense of freedom and peace. Because freedom and peace are really the same thing. When you're at peace with yourself, you're at peace with the world. And that in itself gives you a sense of freedom. Because you then are free from judgment of yourself. And you're free then of judging others, which means your frequency rises, right? And you experience life in a different way that is more freeing. When you're free, you understand, I can get from here to there. Money is no issue for me. So money will find its way to me, or I'll find its way to money without the stress of having to persecute myself day in and day out about, how am I going to earn enough wages to get through to today? And we all do that, right? All of us. We're all in this together. That's all I'm saying, right? I'm certainly not through that in my life, but I think I've managed to navigate a lot of that. So in a sense of understanding that, and I still get caught up in certain things, but mostly in a lot of this stuff, I have set myself free from a lot of those chains.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at the chat. It's everything really. And, all the while our attention is on other people and what decisions they're making. It's just a displacement behavior for what we're doing ourselves. We can, exactly. Don't get me wrong. I don't believe, I completely understand that there are troublemakers in positions of supposed authority that can make life difficult for us to do certain things. But at the end of the day, there's so many day-to-day decisions that we have control over that can completely transform our lives. If we concentrate a bit more on those, then I think a lot of the other ones wouldn't be such a priority for us. Look at how many people. And then if I take the mask example.
Sorry, Catherine.
I was going to say, so just take the mask example. So I was out in London in the middle of the pandemic with a group of friends, and I was the only one not wearing a mask. And they were all like, there's policemen everywhere. They're all going to tell you off. And I just paid no attention to it. And I didn't get told off once. I didn't get reprimanded. Not that I'd have cared if I had, but I didn't, because I just paid absolutely no attention to it whatsoever. And this is the thing. It's these stories that we tell ourselves. And yes, we all know that they come from traumas and programming and everything. But if you know about the traumas and programming, then we need to start recognizing them a bit more and stop using it as an excuse, quite frankly, is my thought.
I absolutely agree with you. And Iwe lead cow, Iwe. I love some of these names on YouTube, right?
Oh, yes.
It's so cool. Iwe lead cow. I'm not quite sure if it's lead cow or lead cow. Yes, I love the song Let Peace Begin With Me, usually played during holidays. I use it a lot in my spiritual musical part and time with God, and it's so true. Peace begins with me. It really, really, really does. Peace begins with yourself. Start finding peace with your challenges that you've had. Start finding peace with your traumatized childhood. This is where faith comes in as well, because when you're at peace with things, it means you've also had some sort of faith. Pray, meditate, do the inner work, the shadow work that is required, because the shadow work really means dissolving exactly the things that have given you that trauma, right? When you could understand your abusive father had a very great purpose in your life. And does that mean it was right what he did? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But you know what? He's got to make peace with that in his world. Can you imagine what a father must go through in his mind, oftentimes suppressed, which is why very, very often people who've done these things to their children or their families, and I'm just talking fathers now, turn out to be raging alcoholics, drug addicts. They have these crazy dementias or whatever when they get old, horrible diseases. They give themselves horrible, horrible diseases. And I'm not saying everyone who's been sick has had the same thing, so please. I'm just saying that in this situation, that is how you can tell. And as a healer for many years, I can tell you this is what I've observed. And oftentimes having spoken to people about these situations, this is how they are trying to block out the things they've done. They are accountable mostly, A, to their creator and to themselves. And there is no worse judge than you. I promise you that now. Your spirit knows exactly when it's wronged, and it knows it has to right its wrongs. That's what karma is. It's cause and effect. Your spirit knows, whether it's in this life or 10 lives down the line from here, right? Your spirit knows it has to right its wrongs. And that is why I choose as much as what I can to right my wrongs while I'm here with the people I need to find that resolution within myself and to live a peaceful life. Because then peace finds me as well. Peaceful situations find me. Peaceful people find me. And it doesn't mean I just lay meditating the whole day. I promise you. I have very cool experiences with very cool people. We have lots of fun together. And we do it without being caught or harassed or beaten up or preyed upon or whatever it might be. We did it in a peaceful situation. And no, I promise you, I'm no little angel. I don't sit here at my house doing nothing wrong. Not that it's wrong, but I have lots of fun. I do lots of cool things in my life. I'm just not, I travel. I've lived in foreign countries. I've met amazing people, had amazing experiences with very cool people. And that's enriched my spirit immeasurably. And so, whatever your desire for yourself is, let it be that, and let that be realized for you. Yeah, Jessica, that's so true. I'm healing my childhood through giving my son a great life and giving him the love I didn't have. Absolutely.
That's so wonderful, Jessica. And I think it was Jessica, correct me if I'm wrong, Jessica, I think it was you that said right at the start about your anxious Australian Kelpie. Now, those of us, and myself included, who've got anxious dogs or animals in our lives, they are another messenger to us to get us to look within, because an animal will not be anxious regardless of how much trauma they've been through. Yes, they will have to work through that trauma with our hells, but once we've got to that pace of real calmness in their environment, they will release that. Now, if they've been beaten with a metal stick and someone walks up to them and metal stick, they'll react to that in the moment, but they won't be sitting there worrying about it until they see it, if that makes sense. Right. So
exactly.
And I'm absolutely counting myself with this, because I have a lot of animals that I take on that have had a lot of past trauma, but they're a brilliant message for us. So those of us that have still got animals that are anxious or have got skin conditions or this or that, we have to take the message on board that there's something that we have to shift in our environment. It's not that we've caused it. It's just the fact that if you put a very nervous horse out with a herd of horses, they will no longer be anxious again, because they'll find their place and they'll read the energy collectively.
Yes.
So I just wanted to say that all these things are messages to us, just like our physical symptoms are to us as well.
Horses don't overthink things, right? And as an animal communicator, I promise you, animals, especially when they've been in a rescue situation, some of them have experienced the greatest trauma ever. They choose to not remember that. Very often they won't even want to communicate to you what happened. They choose to move forward. Now, and as you say, put them in a happy environment with other calm horses, or, you know, put dogs in an environment with other calm dogs. And honestly, they will generally be responding to the human sphere. Your animals are always a reflection of you, just like your children are. Don't think they're not. That's a story for another day. I think, Catherine, we should talk about that sometime as well.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I know that you generally have a time limit.
Yes, I have got another one I've got to have 100, but I've really enjoyed that. And as usual, thank you so much to everyone that has interacted. That's really, really fantastic. Thank you so much for being here with us. We really love it.
Absolutely. And I will probably, am I back with you next week?
Next week back with me. Yeah, lovely.
So I'll be back with Catherine next week, and I don't know when Christmas is or whenever, but then she'll invariably be back with me. So for those of you who don't know yet, that's what Catherine and I are doing on a Friday, 3:30 my time. I know in Pommy Land it's 1:30, and I don't know where the rest of you are. And I know, so we on a Friday. We generally have our Friday chats, and it's lots of fun and lots of healing stuff and just common sense of being a human being, right? Let's just live a beautiful life, and let's just connect, and let's just talk to each other and help each other through these amazing, crazy, freaky times. But we're all here together. We've all chosen to be here. We've all chosen to be at this time serving each other with love and compassion. So thank you so much, Catherine, again, for being here. And to our beautiful, beautiful viewers, really appreciate you guys. And I don't know why. This is just Joanne. I know that you do this is amazing, Joanne. I know that you work with the joeys, the kangaroos, and I just love that. I just love that, and I'd love to chat about. You know what I would love to do sometimes, to talk to viewers like yourself. How you guys, and in fact, Catherine, that might be a nice one for us to plan sometime in the new year, is to speak to some of our viewers who run sanctuaries and stuff like this, and your experience of it. Yeah, we'll get in touch with you guys in the new year about that. My idea for ARA as well as solutions in the new year is to involve many more of our viewers in some of our talks, get you guys on for live chats and things. I know I speak a lot to the survivors, the SRA survivors, stuff like that, but so many more of you doing amazing work out there, which I think a lot of people can benefit from. So I know that you're in a rush to go, Catherine, and thank you so much, everybody. God bless you all, and we shall see you. Oh, I'm on with Caleb again at 7 tonight. I know we were supposed to be on last night. We had internet issues. So 7 p.m. GMT +2. It'll be either 7 or 8. Just watch the time, and we will have Caleb on and talking about the 9 live ships again. More interesting stuff happening in our time zone. Yeah. Okay, guys. God bless you all.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.